The Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy set is everything I want. Well, almost. It is missing a handful of my favorite characters. Where's my beautiful purple-haired pirate Layla? And I also don't have infinite money to get every single version of every single card in the set, which I want. But overall, all of the characters, settings, and stories from the mainline Final Fantasy games are so beautifully translated into Magic cards. I've been collecting as many of the cards as I can, which leads me to this video, where I want to talk about how you can collect the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy set with a small economics discussion on the algebra of supply and demand, just woven in there. Now you might be wondering, wait, Anna Margaret, your background is in physics, not economics. But fun fact, there are many physicists that go into economics, and math is a tool we can apply to any field. In fact, there's an interdisciplinary research field called econophysics, which applies physics theories to look at problems in economics. We will not be doing that. We're going to be using some Econ 101 level math to talk about Magic the Gathering cards. But before I jump in, I want to note that I've acquired Final Fantasy cards in a few different ways. I am an MTG ambassador and partner for this set, which means the Wizards of the Coast sent me some product that I could use in sponsored content for them. I included sealed and open product in videos that I made for my own channel, Wizards of the Coast channel, and an advertisement. So you might see a Final Fantasy MTG Arena ad and some videos I made floating around the internet. Although that's not the only Final Fantasy product I've acquired, and this video is not sponsored. While some of the product I have was given to me as a part of a contract, I also bought myself quite a bit of sealed Final Fantasy MTG product. I bought myself the Surge Foil Terra deck because Terra's my favorite Final Fantasy character, and I also bought 5 collector boosters from 2 of my local game stores. I first just bought 2, and then I wanted more, so I went to another store near me and ended up getting the last 3 packs they had left. I opened some fun hits such as this Surge Foil Tifa at my LGS, and while I was working throughout MagicCon Las Vegas, I did ask if someone was willing to wait in line for me at the official MagicCon merch booth, and I was very lucky to get 3 more collector boosters. These ones at MSRP, which stands for Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price. I'll have a little more on this later. Also, shout out to my friends that waited in line for 2.5 hours. You're the real ones. I also purchased some singles, traded for some, and was given some cards by my friends at MagicCon. My friend Lua gave me this Cecil card, and I'm obsessed. And I was able to get this Terra from the Laughing Dragon, and I think I'll be exclusively playing these 2 commander decks for a while. Why is this important? I think that this set is one of the most exciting Magic the Gathering sets ever, and I know that many people feel the same way. There's so much hype around the set, and I think that there are lots of people purchasing Magic the Gathering cards for the first time. People want to collect cards inspired by their favorite characters in Final Fantasy, and the demand for this set is really high. And as you may have guessed, that high demand impacts the price of the set. So let's jump in and talk about supply and demand. Supply and demand are 2 primary forces in markets. Supply and demand in math are often modeled using equations to show how the quantity of a good and its price interact. I'm fascinated by card prices, and I think we can use some of these simple supply and demand relationships to look at the Final Fantasy set. In economics, price is often on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis, and the supply and demand functions are plotted as linear equations. The demand function typically slopes downward, meaning as price increases, quantity demand often decreases, indicating that demand has a negative relationship to price. See? We're basically already doing algebra. We're essentially saying that quantity demand is a function of price and other factors, such as income or related goods prices, where all of these determinants have either a positive or negative sign assigned to them. Now, if we were to attempt to put all of these factors into an equation, it would be really messy and hard to work with. So we simplify things and just consider the price. This is often referred to by the ceteris paribus, which means all other things being equal. In economics, this concept is put into practice when you only examine one variable in isolation, and we assume all other relevant factors are constant. Often, that one variable being looked at is price, and that's what we're going to do today. It's similar to the assumptions we make when we're solving physics problems. When we simplify the problem, we're minimizing our variables. While the demand function has a downward slope, the supply function, on the other hand, usually slopes upward, showing that higher prices incentivize producers to supply more. This means that supply has a positive relationship to price. Now, when these two functions are plotted together, notice how there's a point where the two functions intersect. The point where these two functions intersect is called the equilibrium, representing the price at which the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. Mathematically, this is where the supply and demand equations are set equal to each other and solved for price and quantity. This model helps economists predict how markets respond to changes in production, consumer preferences, or external shocks. There are two different things we can consider with supply and demand for this Final Fantasy Magic: The Gathering set: sealed product and singles on the secondary market. Sealed product is what Wizards of the Coast is printing. That's booster packs, pre-constructed commander decks, bundles, etc. The higher the demand for the set, the larger the supply needed. And if that supply is too low, that's when we start to see prices go up. The MSRP for a Final Fantasy collector booster is $37.99. But while this is the manufacturer's suggested retail price, it's unlikely you'll find a collector booster at this price point unless you're at MagicCon or quite lucky. Actual prices depend on the retailer and the market conditions. As of today, when I'm filming this, I noticed collector boosters going for around $98 with sales as high as $120. There's a huge demand for this set, and we're seeing that reflected in the price. This set is pulling a gigantic audience of Magic lovers and Final Fantasy lovers, and the demand is really high. For me, I knew that I wanted to open some packs, and I wanted to get as much of this set as I could, but I wanted to be realistic about what my chances are of getting cards I'm hoping for from the packs I'm opening. Candidly, I spent up to $70 at an LGS near me on pre-release weekend for a collector booster pack. And while I did open some incredibly cool cards, I personally did not open any of the hyper rare chase cards like the Chocobos. I don't think you can quantify happiness or enjoyment, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to open product. However, I do think it's good to be informed. There's information available from Wizards of the Coast on both play boosters and collector booster box pull rates. Let's look at what's inside a collector booster and how it can help you collect the Final Fantasy set. There are 15 cards in a collector booster. 3 traditional foil commons, 3 traditional foil uncommons, 1 non-foil booster fun common or uncommon, 1 traditional foil or surge foil booster fun common or uncommon, 1 traditional foil basic land, 1 traditional foil default frame rare or mythic rare, 3 booster fun rares or mythic rares, 1 Final Fantasy Through the Ages bonus sheet card, and 1 traditional foil surge foil or colorful chocobo rare or mythic rare. There's tons of variants to what you'll see in a collector booster, and while there's a chance you'll get an absolutely incredible pack, there's also a chance that you'll get a pack that feels like it's filled with duds. That's the risk you take when you open a collector booster. So will opening boosters help you collect all of the Final Fantasy product? Yes. If your goal is to get lots of Final Fantasy cards, opening boosters will help you do that. You have the opportunity to get chase cards, and while you cannot control what you open, you know that you'll get a certain number of cards. Now, what if you want a particular card? I, for example, really wanted my favorite characters, Terra from Final Fantasy VI and Cecil from Final Fantasy IV. One of the cards I'm obsessed with is Cecil Dark Knight. There's a great Surge Foil borderless version. To figure out the probability of pulling him in a pack, we can look at the listed probabilities provided by Wizards of the Coast. There's a chance he'll appear in the last card slot of a collector pack. In that slot, there's a 15.1% chance of pulling a rare Surge Foil borderless character card. There are 20 potential characters that could be in that slot. So we take our percentage and divide by 20 to get a 0.76% chance of pulling the Surge Foil borderless Cecil Dark Knight out of a collector booster. That means there's roughly 1 Surge Foil Cecil in every 133 collector booster packs. I ended up opening both the standard art of Cecil and 1 version of Terra in packs. This was quite lucky, and I could have stopped there. Although to get the versions I really wanted, I needed to seek out those cards specifically in a different way. I should note I don't even have the Surge Foil version of Cecil. I do have the standard foil, and it's beautiful, but not as beautiful as my friend Lua who gave it to me after she pulled it. But I do really want the Surge Foil. Which brings us to buying and trading cards. Wizards of the Coast is not really involved in the secondary market, where people or businesses resell cards that they've pulled from booster packs and other sealed products. Now, I'm obsessed with Cecil, but I recognize that the card itself isn't going to be as popular for other people. That means that there are likely people who would want to sell or trade the card if they pull it, which is great for me, who desperately wants it. For singles, the principle of supply and demand plays a big role in card prices and availability. When a card becomes highly desirable because of its power in competitive formats, popularity in Commander, or synergy with new releases, the demand for that card rises. If the card is from an older or limited print run, the supply might be low, causing prices to increase significantly. This economic dynamic makes the MTG secondary market behave much like real-world markets, where scarcity and popularity drive fluctuations. So what does this mean for collecting the Final Fantasy set? Wizards of the Coast has commented that they're dedicated to making sure people have the opportunity to buy this set, and they want to meet the demand for this set. That's good. Pre-orders were selling out incredibly quickly, but as the set has launched, more and more people are getting access to sealed product. And while prices are still fluctuating, there are opportunities for people to get access to product at close to MSRP rates. For specific cards you really want, you might want to look towards trading with a friend or buying it as a single at your local game store. For a wide breadth of cards or a sampling of some of the beautiful cards in the set, sealed products are a great way to go. You might even get really lucky and pull a chase card. However, don't go into your pack opening with the assumption that you'll get a huge hit. This is a very simple and quick overview, but I think it's important to be thoughtful, both about what we buy and also about why things are priced the way they are before we complain. This is a hugely desirable set, which is great. It also means that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get the chase cards from the set. Be mindful of your goals and your budget. And if you happen to have a Surge Foil Cecil card, I could give it a good home. Thank you so much for watching. Are you collecting the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set? What cards are you hoping for the most? And if you want to talk more about math and Magic the Gathering, I have a YouTube video where I become a math magician and chat about the math magic Zimone does in Quandrix. It's right over here. Oh, and also subscribe. It helps tell YouTube that you want to see more of my videos, and it helps YouTube know to show my videos to other people. So help me out, subscribe here, and let's do more math magic.